light between two shores. Chapter 1, A Letter Across the Sea. Elena Moretti had lived her whole life by the Amalfi Coast, where lemon trees kissed the sea breeze and old fishermen still told stories of mermaids. Her days were quiet, filled with painting seascapes, running her family's quaint inn, and watching the horizon stretch endlessly. But on a rainy afternoon in spring, everything changed. A letter arrived, not emailed, not typed, but handwritten, with a London return address. It was a booking request from a man named Adrian Whitaker, a writer from England looking for peace, inspiration, and a room with a view of the sea and a bit of soul. Elena smiled at the poetic phrasing and wrote back personally, something she hadn't done in years. Chapter 2, The Man with the Worn Notebook. When Adrian arrived, he was not what Elena expected. Tall, thoughtful, and quiet, he carried an old leather notebook filled with half-finished stories and fragments of poetry. He stayed in room 4, the one with the balcony that looked like it floated above the Mediterranean. Each morning, Adrian sat on the rocks beneath the inn and wrote for hours. And each evening, Elena brought him coffee and conversation. They talked about favorite books, lost time, and why some parts stay guarded long after they've healed. "I came here to write a story," he said once, looking out at the golden horizon. "But I think I'm living one instead." Chapter 3, Lemon Trees and Stargazing. One evening, Elena invited him to her family's lemon grove. They walked beneath trees that had seen generations pass and stopped by the old stone wall where she used to sit as a child. "Close your eyes," she whispered, placing a small white flower behind his ear. "Is this part of the local tradition?" Adrian asked, smiling. "No," she said, "it's just something I've never done before, but wanted to." That night, they lay on a blanket beneath the stars. Without meaning to, her hand brushed against his. He didn't move away. Chapter 4, The Unspoken Goodbye. Adrian was due to return to London at the end of the month. The thought of it sat between them like a shadow neither wanted to acknowledge. On his last night, they walked along the beach. The sky was streaked with the final blush of twilight. Adrian stopped, took her hand, and finally said the words. "I never believed in finding someone in a place you'd only dreamed of. But I found you. And I'll miss you," Elena replied softly, "even before you leave." He kissed her under the fading stars, tenderly, like a promise too fragile to speak aloud. Chapter 5, Return with the Tide. Months passed. Summer turned to autumn, and Elena returned to her quiet routines. Tourists came and went. The sea stayed the same. But her heart held the memory of one writer with ocean eyes and soft-spoken thoughts. Then, on the first day of December, she found another letter on her doorstep, this one not requesting a room, but offering a future. "I left a story unfinished in Italy, not in my notebook, but in my heart. If you'll have me, I'd like to come back, not as a guest this time, but as someone who never truly left." Elena read the letter twice before running down to the beach. There, standing just beyond the waves, was Adrian, suitcase in hand, heart in eyes. Epilogue, The Inn with a View. Years later, travelers would still come to the little inn on the Amalfi Coast. They'd speak of the view, the food, and the laughter that danced between the walls. But most of all, they'd talk about the couple who ran it, the artist and the writer, whose love began with a letter and never ended. Sometimes, Adrian would say, the best stories aren't written, they're lived. Until the last snowfall. In the quiet town of Leora, nestled between snow-covered hills and pine forests, winter lasted longer than most places. But for Elena, winter wasn't just a season, it was a memory that never melted. Elena was a florist. Her shop, Bloom and Whisper, stood at the corner of Pine Street, its windows always fogged with the breath of warm air and the scent of lavender and roses. Every morning, she arranged fresh bouquets and placed one outside with a little note that read, "Take this if your heart is heavy." she had once believed in forever. But that was before Adrian. Adrian was a photographer who came to Leora one snowy December for a travel project. He wandered into her flower shop with frost on his lashes and curiosity in his eyes. He bought a single white tulip and asked her if she knew what it meant. "It means forgiveness," she whispered, surprised. He smiled. "Then it's perfect." Adrian kept coming back. Some days for flowers, some days for coffee. But most days, just to see her. They fell in love slowly, like snowflakes layering the world in silence. He took pictures of her when she laughed, when she leaned over her flower arrangements, when she stared out the window as snow fell like stars. She showed him how to make tea from dried jasmine petals and how to tie perfect ribbon knots on gift bouquets. Winter turned to spring, and their love blossomed like the crocuses she planted outside the shop. He asked her to come with him, to travel, to see the world through his camera's lens. But she hesitated. "I built my roots here," she said. "What if I lose them out there?" So Adrian left. He promised to write. And he did, for a while, postcards from Vienna, photographs from Morocco, letters filled with longing and love. But one day, the letters stopped. And so did the world inside Elena. She waited through one winter. Then another. The tulips bloomed again, but her heart remained frozen. Years passed. The townspeople still came to her shop. They still found warmth in her flowers. But no one ever knew why she never loved again. Then one day, during the first snowfall of December, a familiar face walked through her door. Adrian. His hair was a little grayer, his smile softer, his hands trembling as he held out a worn photograph, one he'd taken of her, laughing with a daisy in her hair. "I never stopped loving you," he said, voice cracking. "But I lost my way, and maybe part of myself. I kept thinking of coming back, but I was afraid you'd moved on." Tears welled in Elena's eyes. For a moment, all the winter she endured without him melted in her chest. "I never moved on," she whispered. "I was just waiting for the last snowfall." He stepped forward, gently placing a white tulip on the counter. "I'm sorry." She smiled, the kind of smile that only ever belongs to home. She reached over, touching his face. "You're forgiven." Outside, snow fell quietly, blanketing Leora in white. And inside Bloom and Whisper, two hearts found each other again, not in the spring of new love, but in the winter of second chances.